Hey everyone, this is Crystal Lee, aka the Clinician Coach, and today I'm doing a mini training on the client acquisition pipeline. So basically, how to get people from being strangers all the way to getting them to be a new client. So before we dive in, I just want to make a little note about who I am and what the Clinician Coach is. So I'm a business coach that helps people build businesses that are passion driven, but that actually fit their life instead of the other way around, because I find a lot of times we've been socialized by grad school, our profession, to sacrifice a lot and to really make our business the priority and fit our life around our business. And I think that's just kind of BS. So that's kind of my philosophy. And so I'm hoping that, by giving you these free tips and advice and support, that you're able to really build a business that really fits into your lifestyle. So there are many ways to think about the client journey or the client pipeline, client acquisition pipeline. I like this because it makes it pretty easy to visualize. It's just 4 different phases or steps. You can see how they move through them. So first, you're starting out with strangers, people who are completely unaware of who you are. But as they become aware of you, they become passive visitors. So they're visiting your website, your social media, maybe they stumbled across a blog that you wrote. And as you start building that like factor, maybe even a little bit of trust, they become a lead. And a lead is just a different way of saying an inquiry or a potential client. That's someone who's actually reaching out to you, potentially interested in working with you. They aren't all the way bought in. And that's when you want to, take someone, move them from being a lead and building that trust factor and making them an actual client. So as you look at this, you can see you're going to need different marketing strategies, different interventions, different things that you're doing to move someone from stranger to visitor to lead to client. You're not going to have someone jump from being a stranger all the way to your client. That's very unrealistic, but you can see how they move through these different phases. And we're going to talk more about specifically what you want to do to move someone through this pipeline. So how do you get someone from being completely unaware of you, don't even know you exist, to becoming a visitor, a passive visitor? So you can think of it in 2 different ways. So there's paid ways, paid marketing strategies, and free unpaid strategies. Paid strategies are things like Facebook ads, Instagram ads, Reddit ads, Google ads, basically ads, right? Putting out an ad in a newspaper, stuff like that. That's a way to become, to help people become more aware of you, to get on people's radars. The unpaid ways are things like having really great SEO for your website. So when people are just, casually Googling or something, they become aware of you. Your website pops up, your blog pops up, that kind of stuff. Social media, so having a Facebook page or a really active Twitter or something like that. Those are unpaid ways that you can help people go from stranger to visitor. Once you have all these visitors, how do you start to build that like factor so they actually become serious inquiries or potential clients? So that's stuff like on your website, having really good copy that speaks directly to your audience. Because once you have a visitor there, if your website doesn't speak to them, if it feels like they're in the wrong place, like you don't understand them, they're not going to turn into a lead. If you have blog posts that really aren't tapping into their specific pain points or aren't helping them in any real way, they're going to bounce off of your blog or your website, whatever, and never give you a second thought. If you have really great online presentations or YouTube videos, stuff like that, things where they get to know you a little bit better, even your social media, your Instagram, Facebook, whatever, if you're posting things on there, you're sharing little helpful tidbits, you're sharing your blog posts, whatever, they're consuming more things from you that they feel are helpful. They start to like you, they start to have this inkling of trust for you. Then that's when they become, from just a passive visitor, they become an actual potential lead or an inquiry, a potential client. And the best way to turn a lead into an actual paid client is to have a really great quality consultation call or consultation video call. This is where you really start to build that trust factor. You are closing in, you're showing them, how great of a therapist you can be for them. If you're an insurance-based practice, the leap from potential client or a lead to client is really quite small, but if it's a private pay practice, you really got to show them that you are worth the money. So you absolutely really need to do a consultation call. No one's going to go from a lead to a paid client for a high value service like therapy without actually talking to you and knowing that you feel like at least potentially a good fit. Maybe in the intake it'll kind of unravel from there, but at least you have to potentially feel good to them. So you might have gotten to this point in this mini training and be thinking to yourself, well, I do all the things that you're talking about. I do bring these people through a client journey pretty smoothly, but it's still not working. And what usually is happening is there are some pretty common leaks that people have in their pipeline. The biggest one is probably not having enough awareness. If you don't have enough people at the front of your pipeline and then you're kind of losing people as they go through that client journey, which is natural, of course, not everyone who's going to be a stranger is going to become a client. But if you don't have enough people at the front end and then you're gradually, you're losing people as they go through the pipeline, you're going to end up with fewer people at the end of the process. So you need to make sure you have enough people at the front end, enough people who are strangers who are becoming aware of you to become a passive visitor in order to fill the pipeline and not, die by attrition kind of thing. Another common leak in the pipeline is when you go from passive visitor to lead, and that's usually because there's a lack of that like and sometimes that trust factor. More so it's that lack of like and a little bit of that trust. So say you have you get them to your website, but your website copy doesn't really speak to your audience. So they're there and they're like, I don't really think this person gets me. Or maybe you have good copy on your website. They're like, okay, this person kind of gets me, but then they're looking for more information and it's not there. So like they're on your website, but you don't have a blog. So they would really want to keep being on your website, keep having more touch points with you, more opportunities to understand how you think about their issue, understand or get the feeling that you understand them and can help them through these really helpful blog posts, that kind of thing. Maybe they are aware of you, they got to your social media, but the stuff on your social media page doesn't really reflect your niche and your specialization. And they're like, oh, this person doesn't really understand me, or yeah, maybe I like this person's content, but I don't trust that they can actually help me. So you got to make sure that when people get to that visitor stage or that visitor phase, that you have enough stuff there available to them to start building that like and trust factor. Without them liking you and trusting you a little bit, they're not going to bother to call you. Another common barrier from getting someone from being a passive visitor to an actual lead is an unclear call to action. What is the next step? So say someone is on your blog and they think, okay, maybe this person can really help me, but then there's nothing on the blog post, the article, on that web page that tells them what to do next. How are they able to reach you? How can they make that next step, make the leap from visitor to lead? If you make it difficult for them or confusing for them, likely they're just not going to do it unless they are very, very serious about wanting to work with you specifically. People online tend to be a little lazy, so you want to lead them through that process, make it really easy for them, make it super smooth. So it's really important to have a very clear call to action, basically at any point where you might think a visitor might want to become a lead. Going along with that concept of making it as easy and smooth as possible for someone to become a visitor to a lead, you want to make the scheduling as easy as possible. A very common leak is having difficulty scheduling, playing phone tag, that kind of stuff. So if possible, I would really, really recommend that you integrate an online scheduler, maybe not for sessions, but definitely an online scheduler for those 20-minute, 15, 30-minute phone consultations. You don't want someone to get frustrated or lose that momentum of wanting to work with you because you're playing a ton of phone tag or emailing back and forth. It just becomes a little inconvenient, and you want to make things as convenient as possible for these potential clients. Another common leak with translating leads to actual clients is inadequate follow-up. So say you have a 20-minute consultation call with someone, it gets scheduled really easily, they seem jazzed, but then they don't end up answering their phone or whatever. A lot of people don't actually follow up, or maybe they'll follow up once. And I'd really recommend that you follow up 2, maybe even 3 times for things, because people get busy, emails get buried, voicemails accidentally get lost, or what has happened to me before is I wish some clients had followed up because they leave me their phone number, but I can't actually understand what their phone number is, and I wish they would have called me back with their phone number again so that I would actually be able to reach them. So definitely follow up, follow up, follow up. Don't give up too easily. And by you following up, you taking on that burden, it takes that work off of the client, which again goes back to that concept of you want to make it as easy as possible for these potential clients. So you got to do the work. Don't make them do the work. You do the work. So the last leak that I want to talk about is a value deficit. So you got that person on your 20-minute, 30-minute, whatever phone consultation call, but you're not really showing them or demonstrating the value that you're going to bring to the table as their potential therapist. So I have a whole little mini training about how to do a really solid, very effective client consultation call. I highly recommend that you take a look at that so you know how to give that value in those calls. Otherwise, it's going to fall flat. They might have liked you from all your blog posts, whatever, but they don't actually want to invest in a therapeutic relationship with you. They're fine getting that free content on your social media or your YouTube videos or whatever. So that last phase, you really have to show the value and really build that trust. Because if they don't feel that, they're not going to want to dish out $150, $200, $250 a week to meet with you. That's just too high of an ask. So you really got to bring your A game and make sure that you demonstrate your value, you demonstrate your competency, you demonstrate that they can trust you with whatever thing that they're struggling with. So for those of you who aren't watching this on Facebook, I just wanted to give a little shout out to our Facebook group, Build a Thriving Practice. This is where I provide free resources and support, and there's also just a really cool community of other psychologists and therapists who are going through the same thing that you are. And it's a great place to get some, emotional support, but also bounce some ideas off of them. It's a really cool group. I hope you consider joining us. But thank you again for watching the video and hope to see you soon.